welcome to Best Laid Plans. This is your host, Sarah Hart-Unger, and this is the podcast where we talk all things planning and planning adjacent. I couldn't decide when to air this episode because it is done with a teacher as a guest. So there's a little bit of back to school theming in there, and I know those of you in the Northeast are like, excuse me, back to school? That is very far away. However, I decided to air it now because those of us who are not in the Northeast might have school coming sooner than we think. This episode is airing on July 28th, and if you live in South Florida, your school might be starting in just 2 weeks, which means if you're a teacher, you might be starting in just 1. So believe it or not, we are closer to that season than you might think, depending on where you live. And then, of course, we have lots of international listeners who have all different kinds of school calendars. I've had the pleasure of learning about the Australian school calendar and a British system, etc. So everyone's different. And so since I had this delightful conversation, I decided to air it for now at the very end of July. I do have more back to school related content coming up. This is a fun season when it comes to planning and organizing. I'll be sharing about a planner that I think I'm going to have my rising 6th grader try using next year. He is on board with it so far. I'm going to talk about a really unusual daily planner that a listener sent to me that's a lot of fun. We'll be talking about some household organization strategies and all those kinds of fun things as we gear up for another busy academic year, at least in our house. All right, but without further ado, I will introduce this guest. Her name is also Sarah, as you'll hear, and we had a really fun conversation, both learning about how she plans, but also learning some strategies that are specific to a professor. And I'll say professor and not just teacher because this guest teaches older students. So perhaps in the future, we will also have someone on with expertise in the younger grades. The door is definitely open for that to happen. All right, so here is my conversation with Sarah. Well, I'm so excited to welcome today Sarah McConnell. Yes, another Sarah. But this Sarah, unlike me, is very good at anatomy because she is a professor and she teaches anatomy, embryology, histology, and neuroanatomy for med students, undergrads, and grad students. And she wrote to me saying after she listened to my healthcare provider efficiency tips episode that she felt like she had some ideas for those in the teaching field. And I was like, what a great idea, because I can't be so presumptuous to give those, but it sounds like she has it on lock. So I am so excited, Sarah, to hear about your top tips for teachers. And then we're even going to expand it out a little bit more and talk a little bit about student planning and then maybe even like what a teacher might want parents to know. But first, Sarah, go ahead and introduce yourself and give us your own planner piece.
Well, gosh, thank you so much, Sarah. I am absolutely delighted to be here. I don't think I mentioned this before, but I've been listening since 2020. So I've been with you for a while and I'm kind of fangirling a little bit on this end. So yeah, I'm an associate professor of neuroscience at the University of Rochester. As you said, I'm really focused on teaching. So really not research, really teaching. I get to play with med students and undergrads and graduate students, depending on the semester. So there's this great rhythm to the year of what's happening, what am I teaching, who am I working with, which also raises interesting challenges for how do I navigate between what I think of as really task-driven time, like what I'm in right now, kind of in the summer, versus really schedule-driven time of, yeah, the schedule is packed with classes and immediate deadlines. So a very different strategy for each of those 2 times a year. So yeah, just to kind of start with my planner piece, such as it is, don't want to overhype it. I don't have everything totally unlocked yet, but it's working. The ship has not sunk yet. So the pieces I use, I'm definitely hybrid, digital and paper planner, both going very hand in hand. The longest lasting piece of this planner piece is Google Calendar. I've been relying on that as my ultimate source of truth since at least graduate school. And so that's been some number that's greater than 10 years, and I'm not going to say any more than that. So certainly all events go in there. I use color coding. Each course has its own color, or for the massive courses that have various components like lecture and lab and small group discussion, I'll use different colors for each of those components. So just with a glance, without even reading anything, I have a sense of what am I doing and where am I supposed to be. I love how I can include separate calendars for my spouse. His work schedule auto-populates, for which I am deeply grateful, and another one for my preschool son. And most reminders also automatically go into Google Calendar, or at least I should say immediately go into Google Calendar before I have the chance to forget. So anything recurring on a weekly schedule or a monthly reminder, prepare the nanny's schedule, send that out, all of those reminders happen in Google Calendar, as well as certainly long-term planning stuff like months in advance, years in advance, stuff that I will absolutely otherwise lose. So Google Calendar is kind of the central pillar and the longest lasting pillar. And then I use paper for most of my task stuff. I'm kind of an eco nerd. And so for most of my life, I've been like, I don't need a printed official fancy paper planner. I can use scrap paper because I'm like swimming in it. There's so much scrap paper. So I would just use, scrap paper for whatever timeline of my task list, a daily list, a weekly list, a monthly list, whatever fit with the rhythm of the season. I'd group those tasks into must, should, and could for each timeline. And usually on kind of the left side of the page, I would write whatever I'm doing right at this moment, like a commitment device. It felt like permission to focus on one thing and just would really help me stay focused. I'd often even set a timer and say, I'm giving myself permission to spend these 15 minutes on whatever this thing is. And then I cross things out with like a Sharpie, like I've done this. I'm aggressive about getting this stuff done. And then at the end of the day or the week or the month or whatever, I would recycle that piece of paper. And it was like this moment of gratitude and releasing the past, this little kind of ceremonial, and I'm done kind of thing. And then I became a mom, and that system just completely stopped getting the job done. More chaos, less time. And so then I got a paper planner, and I've just stuck with the very same one. It's been working really well for me. It's the Proaction planner. How many technical details do you want on this? I know you often say like the exact size and the paper.
We reviewed the Proaction planner actually on this podcast. I don't know if you found it through that or found it otherwise, but I can even link to that episode.
Yeah.
But it's a great, extremely practical planner. It has some similarities, I think, to Planner Pad, which is maybe a little more well-known, although I think Proaction is growing and probably is also well-known. And actually, you're not the only one that I know some people close to me who use this planner. It is a great tool.
Yeah. So absolutely. Link will be, and maybe I learned about it from you. Do you remember how long ago you talked about it?
Maybe 4 years or so. It was a while ago. Yeah. Yep. And I think the creator, Lori, reached out to me and I was like, ooh, this is amazing. And I talked about it on the podcast.
Yeah, that must be where I got it from because I can't think how else I would have landed there. And that's about the right timeline because about then was when it was really hitting the fan. So yeah, grateful for the weekly spread, the hourly timeline, the space to brain dump the tasks and assign them and everything. Yeah, that is working and helping me navigate both the very schedule-driven times of the year and the very task-driven times of the year. And so then just kind of thinking about how do I use these tools? As soon as something new comes up, it goes right into Google Calendar because I'm so good at forgetting. It's like my new superpower. It gets better every day. So immediately things go right into Google Calendar. Each big season, I dedicate a half a day to what I call getting the ducks in a row. It makes me feel less intimidated about like, what is everything I need to do over the summer? It's like, oh no, they're cute ducks. I'm going to put them in a row. It'll be fun. So that's a massive brain dump, collecting all the next steps for all of the projects, figuring out all the deadlines, all the durations, and then kind of the logical sequence of like, so what should I actually do tomorrow begins to emerge. Then each week, I transcribe that next week's events and tasks. Ideally, I'm assigning tasks to days, aligning deadlines and available time. And I'll often set a timer for this because I could get lost in the kind of zen of like handwriting it all and arranging it all. I set a 15-minute timer. It's like, no, this has to be lean. I got to get this done because there's the next thing to do. Then each night I time block the next day. And there I'm aiming for 5 minutes, like really get it done. But gosh, that makes a difference. The next morning when I arrive, like, what am I doing? I don't even need to think. I just see the thing and I do the thing and it goes way more smoothly. And then in the moment, I don't know if I've got actual ADD or if just everybody has an imperfect attention span nowadays, but I track my time in the planner, just writing down what I'm doing. It's that same commitment device. I use timers and then check things off with a nice, juicy black pen and then feel more accomplished at the end of the day. So there's basically, the pieces that I use and how I use them.
That is awesome. I feel like your whole like writing down what I'm doing and giving myself the permission, that feels very bullet journal. Like the people that like kind of script through their entire day and then they'll put like, this is my log of what I'm doing at any moment. That sounds like that really, really works for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it. I love it. And it definitely sounds a little maybe familiar, possibly podcast inspired to some extent, but I'm sure you have made it entirely your own. So we are going to pivot. We're going to take a quick break, but we have so much more for you because we are going to talk about Sarah's efficiency tips for teachers, because we are going to air this episode around the start of the academic year so that it will align with what's on everybody's mind. And then we'll be able to flip it around a little bit and talk about what might work for students. So we will be right back. Today's episode is brought to you with support from Green Chef. I love fall energy, like the fresh start of back to school, plus all of that delicious fall food. Warm, homey flavors just make everything feel comforting. Plus, with the new seasonal energy, it's the perfect time to reset and bring healthy habits back into focus. Green Chef can help you do just that, even if your season is packed with school festivities and events. Green Chef's meals are made up of real, clean ingredients, and they help you build lasting healthy habits without the hassle. With 80-plus dietitian-approved weekly meal options, Green Chef makes it easy to find meals that fit your lifestyle. Pick from Mediterranean, gluten-free, plant-based, and protein-heavy. There's even a gut and brain health option and calorie-smart choices too. They really are family-friendly, and my kids are always so excited for our Green Chef dinners. Make this fall your healthiest yet with Green Chef. Head to greenchef.com/50bestlaid and use code 50bestlaid to get 50% off your first month, then 20% off for 2 months with free shipping. That's code 50bestlaid, as in 50bestlaid, at greenchef.com/50bestlaid. Today's episode comes to you with support from IXL. The autumn season is in full swing, and IXL helps keep your homeschool lessons or school enrichment structured and steady, whether you're following a set curriculum or creating your own. I personally love the simplicity that IXL offers. I don't have to dig through endless resources. IXL is organized by grade and topic, so I can jump right into what each child needs. My kids have been using IXL for years, and I really trust it to help solidify concepts and meet them where they are. Just like each leaf changes at its own pace, each child learns differently. IXL adapts so kids can move ahead when they're ready or revisit a topic until it truly clicks. Make an impact on your child's learning. Get IXL now. And Best Laid Plans listeners can get an exclusive 20% off IXL membership when they sign up today at IXL.com/plans. Visit IXL.com/plans to get the most effective learning program out there at the best price. Today's episode is brought to you with support from Mint Mobile. If you're still overpaying for wireless, it's time to say yes to saying no. At Mint Mobile, their favorite word is no. No contracts, no monthly bills, no overages, no hidden fees, no BS. That's why you should say yes to making the switch and getting premium wireless for $15 per month. Mint Mobile's plans start at $15 per month, and there are no unexpected overages or hidden fees. All Mint Mobile plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. So ready to say yes to saying no? Make the switch at mintmobile.com/BLP. That's mintmobile.com/BLP. Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 per month. Limited time new customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. All right, we are back. And now that we've heard how Sarah plans her life, she is going to talk about some of her hottest tips for teachers looking to start their new academic year on the right foot. All right, go for it, Sarah.
Okay, thanks so much, Sarah. Oh gosh, I don't want to oversell these. Everything seems very humble now that I've put it down in words. I feel like it's my secret to success, but then I'm like, oh, really? That's it? So anyway, the 3 main things that I feel like get me through, especially as I'm thinking from semester to semester, reaching back to what the heck did I do last year and how the heck am I going to remember it next year? Basically, the 3 things are templates, protocols, and what I call breadcrumbs that just are kind of little hints of kindness to your future self. So to say a little bit more about each of those 3 things, templates I use for anything that's repeated again and again. So certainly grading rubrics fall into this category. You want to be consistent from grading one student's assignment to the next. And then even embedded within my version of those rubrics, I will have comments that I'll give back to the students so that, you make the same mistake, you get the same comment, or you do the same thing well, you get the same comment, and I'm not typing and typing and typing and typing. And even there, you may get the idea, I don't enjoy actually reading, deriving literary meaning with my eyes. I find it exhausting given the amount of that I have to do. So the more I can color code, the faster things go and the less grumpy I am. So I color code those things as well. And so I just, grab the blue comment, grab the purple comment, and it just goes much more smoothly. Email templates as well, student emails and says, oh no, I'm sick, I can't come to lecture. Like, okay, it's largely the same stuff I want to say back. I'm sorry you're not feeling well. Like, start with empathy, right? Don't forget that part. So that's definitely in the template. So, sorry you're not feeling well. Here are your next steps. Here are your resources. Reminder about the TA, and here's me. And so just having email replies for that, or congratulations messages as well.
From a practical standpoint, are these templates, do you have them in do you use the Mac text expander? Like, how are you accessing them in the moment?
I wish I had a text expander or knew how to. I keep every now and then doing a Google search to say, can I do this on my computer? Can I do text expansion? And it keeps telling me no.
Well, at least on Mac, there are keyboard shortcuts built into the Mac, although to be honest, mine are not functioning right. I need to troubleshoot them because they used to work perfectly and now they don't right now. But it is a feature in Mac, and there probably is the equivalent in Windows. So you could just type .sick, and then it would be bam, and then you could just fill in any details.
Ooh, nice. Yeah, no, I've got a way clunkier version. For a long time, we use Outlook for our university mail. For the longest time, they did not support templates. And so I just had it wasn't even a docx file, it was an RTF file, just something really fast, really simple. So I've got keyboard shortcuts for how to find those as fast as possible. And then it's a copy paste. So that's what I've been doing. Now Outlook does support templates, but I don't totally trust them because they don't seem to paste in quick. Anyway, so yeah, largely I'm still using my clunky system, but still faster than typing from scratch. And
totally
less likely that I'll forget some part and then have to circle back and send another. Yeah.
Okay, so that's templates.
Yeah.
Tell us about protocols.
Protocols next. I use protocols for two main purposes: when things are hectic or when events are rare. So hectic times, and especially include right before class as I'm leaving my office, and it's always a few minutes later than I meant for it to be, and I'm really kind of scrambling, and I know I'm going to forget my darn laptop or the laser pointer or something, and realize once I'm in the lecture hall and it's too late to go back that I'm missing something that I really need. So I have my bring this with you to class, Sarah McConnell list. I have it right next to the door so that as I'm on the way out, there's where I see it. There's where I get reminded you need your water. Your voice is going to get all dried out and you're going to need a sip of water during lecture. Bring that. Turn around right now. Get it. So whenever there's a hectic time, I've got a list for that. And then for rare events, like entering final grades, it happens once a semester and it's on its own special website. And for some reason, you need to press 9 different versions of submit before the grades finally are actually real and available to the registrar. So having protocols for, both, making sure I don't forget things when my mind is going completely crazy, and making things smoother when things only happen once or twice a year.
So you don't forget all those minute steps and you don't have to revisit them, which I feel so tell me about breadcrumbs, because that was your third thing.
Yeah. So you could maybe make the argument that they're kind of like templates or kind of like protocols, but they seem like their own separate category to me. Little notes that take a moment to write now, but then future me is so deeply grateful that I made that little note. So largely it's things like, oh, darn it, I ran out of time in this lecture and I really wanted to include blah. So I need to kind of massage the content so that I can make room for it. Or usually it's something I want to change. So I have a spreadsheet for each of my classes. I get very excited about these spreadsheets that I have for each of these classes. I always, when my TAs are working with me and I say, do you really want to see behind the scenes? It's the Excel spreadsheet where all the nuts and bolts live. So for each course, I have a spreadsheet. I call it notes in capital letters, so it's easy to find. And for each row going down, that's one class session, one lecture, one lab, one whatever it is. The columns going across, you've got the boring stuff at the front, the date, the topic. Then the column for tasks. What do I need to have done before this? What needs to be graded? What emails need to be sent? What guest presenter do I need to contact? And then I get into edit ideas, where in pink, I write things that I want to change for next year. I want to add more imaging into the lecture on the basal ganglia. I want to add an interactive class discussion on Alzheimer's disease, whatever it is. So pink means it's not done yet. And I choose pink over red because red is scary, right? That's the color of blood. It's kind of aggressive. But pink, it's an invitation to—
It's gentle.
It is. It's so friendly and bubbly. So yeah, pink for things that I really should do. And then green is like, I've actually done this already. I've followed the thing already. So even embedded in the list is kind of a track record of here's what I meant to do and here's what I have or have not done. And then the next column is the reflection column. And even within there, I've got a little template for like, what did I want to write here? So way back in the day, I'd spend like half an hour reflecting after each class about what went well, what didn't go well, what do I need to change? And now I've got, overall impression is the leading bit. And honestly, now I've boiled it down to an emoji. Like, which emoji do I feel right now as I've just gotten back to my office after this class? Then the next most important thing, timing. Like, did I start on time? Did I end on time? How far did I get? Where do I need to pick up next time? What changes does that suggest I should make? Any comments on the students? Like, were they just totally not engaged today? And do I own that? Or is that them? Or do I need to add more active engagement into the class to keep their pulses up? Or, just comments. Or if there were questions that came up and like, wow, that stumped me. I need to learn more about that. I'll put that in the, here's stuff from the student side. And then just one last line for things that went really well, things that didn't go so well, and then surprises, like what came out of nowhere that I want to capture and have for future reference. Way down at the bottom. Oh, yep.
I am like going to make this for my own courses, which I don't have anything like this. And I'm like, this is brilliant. So I can see how, by the way, like Sarah is a professor, but this could work for, an elementary teacher. This could work for somebody else that just does a training every year or like runs an orientation yearly and then needs to revisit that stuff. So this is gold. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, totally. I mean, another thing I've been putting in there is how much did I prepare? Because again, in the pre-parenthood days, I would learn this stuff like it was a, theatrical performance. I had every word down, the gestures, the time, like seriously, the amount of time I invested was insane. And now I've been trying to pare that back and saying, so what did I actually do? When? Was it just the night before? Was it days before? Was it just the 5 minutes before class? Did I click through the animations? Did I print it out and annotate it? What did I actually do? And then trying to find patterns correlating, like, actually, I did way less and it still went fine. That got a smiley face emoji. So I can save myself some time being more efficient in my prep. Then way down at the bottom, I've got my big course change kinds of things. Like, I need to rebalance the grade weighting in the syllabus. I need to incorporate another guest presenter. I need to change the final exam because, maybe there's suspicions of cheating or unfair access or something. So the big picture stuff, it's still kind of a dumping ground so that I'll revisit that the next year and see what last year Sarah was super smart in thinking about. And this year Sarah is feeling a little clueless while still trying to get back on board. So yeah, that's where I can capture things while they're still fresh and easily reference thoughts from previous years because each year is just the next little tab over in the spreadsheet.
I'm also thinking about how this could apply to non-teaching things. I mean, I've heard of people doing something similar for like a family holiday. Like what worked, what didn't work, thoughts on that. But it is true that many things in our life, they don't always recur, but many things we expect to recur. Like we expect to have Thanksgiving every year. We expect to teach that anatomy course every year. And why not make it easier for ourselves when we know we're going to be doing it again? And I need to take some of my own advice here because I think I do a little more starting from scratch sometimes than necessary. And I will say sometimes that's good because your brain might naturally like go in different directions than if you were led. But then again, I think that there is something to be really said for saving yourself so much time about coming up with the same thing over and over again. So that's awesome.
Oh, I love those parallels.
Okay, so I wanted to hear if you can flip this a little bit, because you are not only a teacher, a professor, and of multiple levels, which is kind of cool, but you watch students learn and you watch students struggle or thrive. So any ideas on tips for doing this from that perspective that you've seen from being on the other side?
Absolutely. And I mean, a few years ago, I did a bit of a needs analysis with one of the course directors for this huge anatomy course that we teach at the University of Rochester, saying like, what are the things that would sync students if they're not in place, or like critical skills for success in medical school. And time management was one of like the 4 main pillars. Just to tell you the other 4: study strategies, time management, anxiety mitigation, and teamwork. And so like these are things that we see as being fundamental, not just to success in med school, but like throughout your careers, right? So yeah, I've been working pretty hard on kind of helping students along while they're learning anatomy. Like, also, here's how to manage your time. So in that context, I've got one kind of baseline recommendation and then 3 specific techniques that we recommend right off the bat. First conversation with med students. So first, do use a calendar or planner, like just super baseline, have a calendar, have a planner for events and tasks, keep it updated regularly, refer to it at least daily, and reflect daily or weekly, whatever you find is necessary, just to make sure that the things that you want to get done are getting done and nothing big is getting left behind. So assuming that we're there, then the next 3 things that we recommend to med students who are trying to navigate the chaos, basically first to answer the question, what should I even do? There's too much. What should I even do? To answer that, we use the Eisenhower matrix. I'll say more about each of these in just a moment, but just to signpost all 3. The next question, when should I do it? For that, we use time blocking. And then how do I stay on task when there's so many things demanding my attention? There's so many distractions. For that, we use the Pomodoro technique. And I forget whether you've discussed any of these techniques on your podcast so far.
Well, I've had Cal Newport on talking about his time block planner, which is an awesome tool. So we've talked about time blocking. I don't think we've talked about Pomodoro or had a Pomodoro aficionado on before. And I forget what your other one was. So keep going.
Yeah. So now to kind of circle back and fill in gaps on each of those 3, the question, what should I even do? Here we use an Eisenhower matrix, which is a 2x2 grid. So 2 rows, 2 columns, put those together, you get 4 boxes. Each row, the top row is labeled important and the lower row is not important. So important counts as anything that's making progress towards your goal. It really counts in accomplishing what you need to accomplish. Then the 2 columns, the first one is urgent, the second one not urgent. Urgent meaning there's time pressure. You need to get this done soon, versus urgent like it can wait. And so then this gives you those 4 combinations of like important and urgent, important, not urgent, and so on. So you do a brain dump, and then for every item that's in the brain dump of what could I possibly be doing with my time, you categorize them into one of these 4 boxes. And if you find something that's important and urgent, that's like an emergency, that's putting out fires, that's dealing with, really important and urgent stuff. And you should do that right now, basically, like as soon as you possibly can. Important things that are not urgent, you basically, schedule when they should happen because they are important. You don't want to let them go, but you need a plan for when to do them. So put them in the schedule. And then not important. If it's not important but urgent, ideally you find somebody else to do it for you. Often an example is baking cupcakes for a bake sale or something. It's like, okay, that's time bound. Maybe the bake sale is tomorrow and it really needs to be done tonight. But like, do you need to be the one doing it? Could you get help or offload that? And then the not important, not urgent is officially stuff you should delete. Get rid of that. You don't need to do that. And then the one point of caution on that last square of not important, not urgent, if we stop the discussion there, it sounds like we say never have fun, never do anything that's not immediately pressing work. And that's a surefire way to burn out real fast. So the main idea there is to include restful breaks, include things that really do rejuvenate you. So probably not scrolling social media, because as far as I've read, the data says that you feel just as stressed coming out of that as you do going in. But going for a walk, dancing, listening to music, having a nutritious snack, something like that, that actually rejuvenates you is the kind of thing that should be an included break. So that's, the Eisenhower matrix, named for the president, in case you're wondering. It's not a coincidence, really real connection there.
I love that. Okay, so time blocking, do you recommend the same method that Cal talked about, or do you have some tweaks on it on how you tend to teach it?
Let's see. I mean, I usually don't have a lot of time to teach. Wow, that sounds meta. Not enough time to teach about time management. But largely we just say, identify where you have unscheduled time and then plug in whatever is on your to-do list, making sure that you're being mindful of how long the tasks are actually going to take. And so that's where I find time tracking to be invaluable. Like really, it's only after a few years of tracking my time that I realize, oh, it really does take me 2 hours to write a letter of recommendation. Okay, I need to be mindful of that the next time I agree to one on a short time frame. So anyway, keeping in mind how long the tasks take, when they actually need to be done by, and also we need to remind med students of this, especially because they are just so nose to grindstone. Otherwise, take breaks. You get burned out. You get exhausted if you're trying to study for 6 hours straight without breaks. So including restful breaks in that plan as well is really the main points we try to drive home.
I love that. I wonder how many med students you're successful in getting to track their time, but maybe more than I think. That's great. And then finally, Pomodoro, because we have not really, it may have come up, but we certainly haven't discussed it recently on this podcast. But I know it has many devotees, including I think my husband even sometimes does it.
Yeah, I mean, it was largely how I got through writing my graduate thesis, because otherwise it's too big. You got to break it into small pieces. So Pomodoro technique, it gets its name from the kitchen timer that looks like a tomato, because not that I know any Italian, but apparently from the internet, now I know that Pomodoro is the Italian word for tomato. So there's where that title came from. The idea is once you're in the moment, you've got your schedule, you've got your time blocking, you know what you're supposed to be working on now, but like, gosh, how do you keep your attention on it? You set a timer, and of course, it doesn't need to be an actual kitchen timer. It could be on your phone, whatever timer you've got. Usually the advice is to set that for 25 minutes, because that tends to align with what's the average attention span. Of course, you can tweak that, but prime Pomodoro technique is use 25 minutes of work. And then you get a 5-minute break, and then you go back and you do another 25 minutes of work and a 5-minute break. And after you've done like 4 of these cycles, you get a longer break of like 15 to 30 minutes. And of course, tweak this according to what your own attention span is, what the task is, how long you have, how long you need your breaks to be. But this idea of alternating for a finite period of work, and then you get that little, yay, now I get a break, is really motivating and helps you accomplish more deep work, more quality studying, all of that in a long span than just nose to grindstone the whole time.
Yeah. And it can make the difference between actually doing it and then versus just seeing the whole thing as too daunting and then not even starting. So
totally. I mean, little confession from my
starting
part.
technique.
Yeah. I mean, the 25 minutes often for me is a little intimidating. So my most common timer is 15 minutes, but really if I'm feeling the crunch, I'll do 10. Sometimes I'll even do 5 if it's like, I've got so many emails to get through, I don't even want to. And like the surest fire way to make sure it doesn't get done is to never do even any of it. And so set a 5-minute timer, take a chip out of it, and then something is done at least. That's a victory.
I love it. And then finally, for those of us that are thinking about back to school in terms of our kids going back to school, this year I have 2 middle schoolers, including a new middle schooler. So that's going to be an adventure, and a second grader. Do you have any ideas from that like kind of teacher perspective that might apply to kids or to parents of kids, I guess?
Yeah, potentially. I've got one reflection from my own time as a 6th grader, really, and then a couple parallels that I see working for me when I really consider myself to be quite brain dead, and they work for me, so maybe they'll work for anybody. So thinking back to me as a kid, when we reached 6th grade, our school just provided everybody with, they called it an agenda, but a planner, just a weekly spread planner. And I found that helped me to start developing that habit of like, well, I'm going to take this thing with me. It will come with me to school and will come with me to home. I will write in it, what are the events? What are the tasks? And so just building that habit earlier than you might think, when the stakes are really low, because there's still parents to watch out for you. There's still teachers to watch out for you. It's not totally on your plate, but you at least, while there's training wheels, get that habit of bringing it and using it and referring to it. Ideally, it's something that appeals to whoever is using it. I don't know whether a digital version would work as well, but I enjoyed having my little paper version that had little random facts in the corners. So it drew me to it. I thought it was fun. And then 2 kind of strategies that help me as an adult when I'm very, very brain dead and think might help even for the chaos of families. Color coding is huge for me. You've heard that already from how I talk about my Google Calendar and color coding comments in my rubrics. For a while, I was teaching as an adjunct at least 3 different colleges at once. And so I was always terrified that I would bring the wrong binder or the wrong pack of assignments or whatever to the wrong, like not even the wrong classroom, the wrong campus, like the wrong school. And so I had bags color-coded, a purple bag for Nazareth, the orange bag for the Rochester Institute of Technology, the yellow bag for Monroe Community College. And even within there, I color-coded the binders. So it was very clear what went with what. And when I was going to one of those schools, all I had to do was make sure I picked up the correct bag and everything that I needed was in there. So simplifying by like color-coding it saved me many times and may be helpful for parents as well. And then that last one that kind of gets back to my thought of protocols for when things are hectic. Yeah, recognizing when things are hectic and then taking preemptive steps as the parent to make those times easier. So a parallel this morning was my son's first day back to preschool in the camp setting. And so we were back into like, oh, shoot, we've got to get up at a certain time. We've got to get him out the door. Oh, it turns out now we have to put sunscreen on him before he goes. Like, great, we're going to have that wrestling match first thing in the morning. So just thinking, what could make the chaos of that morning less awful for everybody involved? So packing the backpack the night before, having a checklist for going out the door, just like I have a checklist for going to class. Absolutely anything that means you don't have to remember as much in the moment and don't have to do as much in those very time-crushed, potentially stressful moments.
I love it. Making it easier for your future self, thinking through the steps ahead of time. I think we do a lot of these things. We don't always think about them. And honestly, with back to school coming, this is a wonderful time to be thinking about it. Well, Sarah, I don't even know if you have like a social media presence or any where can people find you if they're like, I want more of this, or maybe they just want to be in your neuroanatomy class? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, totally. No, everybody should be in my neuroanatomy class. It's fun. But yeah, for finding me, I am a little bit tricky to find because I've just decided, the things that I do not have time for include social media. And so I am not on most of them, but LinkedIn, I am on LinkedIn. So I'm SEA McConnell is the handle on there with LinkedIn.
Perfect. And then if you have a question for Sarah specifically, maybe she'll stop by the comments of the post for this thing if I remind her.
Absolutely. Gladly. For sure.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on.
Well, it's been a delight. Thank you for having me.
Well, that was so much fun. I always enjoy learning from others, and Sarah was a blast hearing how she plans and how she thinks and how she helps her students plan as well. Just lots of really cool tactics, some of which I definitely feel like we talk about here and some of which are new. So yeah, always fun to learn from our guests and get to know them. I will be back next week, as I said, with some August content. I've got lots of questions built up for the month of August. We might have to do 2 Q&As. I have a mini review. We'll be starting to talk about some back to school stuff. I have an ADHD expert coming up, so that's kind of academic adjacent. Lots of fun things in the pipeline, so stay tuned. If you want to stay up to date on all the things that are going on, you should subscribe to my newsletter. It's at theshoebox.com/newsletter. Newsletter subscribers are always the first one to find out about courses and fun things like that. I also try to include at least something useful in every monthly newsletter. And since this episode is airing on July 28th, if you sign up for a newsletter, you'll get a fresh one in just a few days at the beginning of August. It's not always on the 1st, but it's usually around that or thereabouts. So anyway, I don't know exactly what's going to be in that one, but I hope it's going to be great and you will know you want to be included. So just sign up for my newsletter, and the show notes can be found on my website, theshoebox.com, theshubox.com. If you are still hoping for a mid-year reset, we're getting a little bit past the midpoint of the year, but I'm still offering, I think I'll offer it for a week or 2 more and then I'll close it up. I'm offering recordings of the mid-year reset that came with Planning 2025. And basically I'm offering it as a bundle with Planning 2026, which is a 4-hour course that will be held at the end of December and early January. But you also now get a mid-year planning session. You'll get one for this July as well as next July. So if you're like, I am dying for some kind of reset, I'm ready to see what I can do with my goals for the rest of the year, and I want that on demand right now, you can find that on my website as well, theshoebox.com/courses. All right, I'll be back in your feed next week with some more planning fun. Until then, happy summer. Don't worry, we're not quite at the school year yet, but it's coming sooner than you think.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.